We now have plenary session 4, Local Government-Led Pathways to Resilient Society Leveraging the CES Approach. We'll begin next. To begin with, I'd like to introduce the speakers. Manager Planning Department, Sato City, Kasai Takahiro. Chief Executive Officer for Environment, Hyogo Prefecture Government, Suga Noriaki. CEO, Nagpur Zera Parishad, India, Soumya Sharma. Ms. Sharma will be speaking online. Professor, Keio University, in the Media Studies, Rajiv Shaw. Executive Director, Start International, John Pajam. Aegis Executive Director, Yasuo Takahashi. Aegis Takahashi will be facilitating this session. Mr. Takahashi. So the fourth session, which is Local Government-Led Pathways to Resilient Society Leveraging the CES Approach. So under this title, we are going to start the session. The people on the floor and the members online, thank you very much for joining this session. Many of them are participating in this session. I just measure TOEIC synergy. People agree in principle, but specifically, what are you going to do with it? What are the benefits? That is not easy to understand. In that sense, municipalities' activities, I think, will be a very good example, specific examples of synergy. The effects of synergy are more readily understandable. So in this session, we have invited people from local communities in Japan as well as overseas and as well as experts so that we can identify the needs of each local community while at the same time contributing to the global targets. And so we are going to deepen our discussion in this respect. So this will be a very precious opportunity. As was mentioned by the MC, Sato City and Hyogo Prefecture and Nagpur municipality in India, their sizes are different, but sustainable and resilient. A society is very much actively tackled, and so there are 3 municipalities, Japan and overseas, are joining. Start International, USA, and from Keio University. Climate change and sustainable activities are being supported by the 2 experienced experts. So we are here with us are the experts as well. So once again, thank you very much for joining this session. For all the panelists joining this meeting despite a busy schedule. Now, as was mentioned in this meeting as well, the deterioration of climate change and disasters deterioration and also the environmental being more worsened in municipalities. So there are various issues, and SDGs and Paris Agreement, biodiversity, international framework, the global agenda are also major steps to tackle all those issues. So agreed upon agreements and targets need to be met. But in order to do that, then they need to be translated into the municipality investment plans as well as city planning plans in an effective way. Along that context, so we are talking about CES, or Circulating Ecological Sphere. So CES approach will be focused upon harmony with nature, decarbonization, resource recycling. Nature concept has been incorporated into CES. As you are well aware, the 5th Environmental Basic Plan incorporated this important concept in Japan origin concept, CES. Is relevant to a model that can show a very practical approach. CES approach is partnership between the agricultural areas and the cities as well. In each locality, the available resources will be utilized in an effective way for revitalization of the local areas as well as generating employment as well. So co-benefit will aim at SDG, localization, net zero, decarbonization, all those things are the also areas where this concept can contribute to. Following that, in order to start this session, IGES has been sustainability Mitra. Dr. Mitra is basically going to talk about the framing concept, to talk about significance of CES and IGES efforts of how they're going to apply this one domestically and internationally. Mitra-san, please.
Government lead pathways for sustainable development, application of CES approach. From the morning, if we see that there are many challenges. Okay. From the morning in different plenary session, we could see that human societies, we are facing pressing challenges for sustainable development, which are imposed by climate change, unplanned urbanization, inefficient management of the pollutants, including waste, increasing natural disaster. In addition to that, deforestation, water scarcity, and new and emerging risk also intensify the risk to the sustainable development. And to address these challenges, global community came together and discussed together and agreed on several global agendas, including Paris Agreement for Climate Change, Sustainable Development Goals, Sendai Framework for Disaster Management, and Biodiversity Convention. But if we see what is the actually progress of these global agendas, I would like to share examples from our SDGs Sustainable Development Goals. In 2015, global community adopted Sustainable Development Goals to actually achieve sustainable development by 2030. And we adopted 17 goals and 169 targets. And global community agreed to work toward this to achieve this goal. But what is the current status if we see as of last year, 2023, that almost half of the targets show moderate to severe deviations from desired trajectory. Particularly for Asia and Pacific region, that if we see the current trend, then by 2030, none of the SDG goal will be achieved in this region. So this is the kind of status of the Sustainable Development Goal. Now, if we see what is the status of the climate change action, that despite of the many goals set up in the Paris Agreement, and global community also take significant efforts, take actions to combat the climate change. But still, if we see that we could not actually minimize the risk of the climate change. If you see, this is one of the example in 2022 that global average carbon dioxide concentration exceeded pre-industrial values by 50%. And in a estimate, International Organization for Migration, they predicted that by 2090, 1/3 of the population will exposed to extreme heat waves. And in the recent last year COP 28, the global community, they come forward to enhance, to increase their effort to combat this climate change intensity. And for that, if you see, one of the significant agreement was made that tripling of the world's renewable energy capacity by 2030. And this in this COP28, it is emphasized that local government, local community should play the vital role in achieving this global agenda. And with that, it is very important to bridge the local to global actions and need to create a local to global action sphere for advancing the sustainable development goal. And it is important to decentralize the global goals and the national development plan in the local level actions. And for that, need to consider the urban rural together, need to come together, bring this urban and rural community together, design the collective local actions and implement this action in an integrated manner that can help to contribute to the national development plan as well as global agenda. There, it is important, but what is the current conventional trend? The development of the rural and urban, it's actually considered very separately. And that actually increase the trade-off and cause the risk of the climate change, risk of the disaster, and also increase the pressure on the natural resources. So if we can bring this urban-rural community together and recognize the linkage of the urban-rural for localization of SDG, that actually bring the synergies and minimize the trade-off. And through this partnership and integrated planning, that can actually help to bring people, skill and money together, and that contribute to optimum use of local resources and ultimately contribute to the nature positive growth and maintain the planetary health, as well as it contribute to the economic revitalization of the rural areas and ensure well-being. And by recognizing that, we actually promoting together with partner. Today, Dr. John START Executive Director is here. We are collaborating with them in addition to our regional partners to promote this concept in Asia region. And currently we are working with partners in South Asia and Southeast Asia. And this is our approach actually, try to apply for real impact generation. And if you see that it is important to understand the local needs, and based on that, we actually collaborate with our local government partners and engage the stakeholders in the co-development approach and develop the local actions and apply that actions in the local level, and that contribute to the national goals and the global agenda. And this is one of the examples that IGS initiated in Hachinohe City in Aomori Ken. There, actually, we are collaborating. IGS signed a MOU with Hachinohe City government, and we are working together to develop their roadmap for decarbonization, pathways for revitalization, and work together for net zero action in Hachinohe. And this is the final slide, that enabling environment for local lead pathways to resilient society. It's actually from our experience from the Sustainable Development Goal as well as Millennium Development Goal, we identify that it is essential to bridge the local to global feedback loops. And the CS provides a means of application of synergistic localization of global goals. And for application of CS, local government should come forward in the front line to accelerate the local actions towards a carbon neutral and resilient society. And we know that local government has the limited capacity in terms of the scientific knowledge. So we need to create a science policy co-production space where scientists together with the local government, local community will work together to co-development of the actions and the solutions. And that will give the support, give ownership to the local stakeholders. And finally, there are many good practices here and there in the different corner of the world. We need to establish a local and regional level platform to facilitate the collaboration and cross-learning. So with that, actually, we can bring the necessary changes to achieve the sustainable development goal in the post-2030. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mitra-san. That was very systematic talk to talk about CES approach significance to be deployed domestic and international IGES effort that they are putting into. So following this input as well, we'd like to listen to specific examples from each municipality. First is Sado City in Niigata Prefecture. Mr. Kasai, Manager Planning Department of Sado City, is present with us here today under the very strong leadership of the mayor. Multifaceted actions have been taken on their part. Mr. Kasai, I'm Kasai. It's good to see you all. So for my part, in order to realize sustainable island Sado, under this concept, the local SDGs realization, and that's what we are working on. So I'd like to report on that. Next slide, please. First, an overview of Sado City. The city is pretty much located at the center of Niigata Prefecture, and it's an island. And 855 square kilometers is the area, and the coastline is approximately 280 kilometers. The population is about 50,000, 48,000 to be more exact. And the production is 150 billion. And the main is agriculture, construction, and this structure has not been changed over many years. The accounting base is 48 billion, usually about 50 billion, traditionally. And it's a one island and one city. So the water supply and fire department and those things are single-handedly handled by this city. This is probably common with nationwide issues as well. There has been declining of population, declining birth rate, aging. All these things have been taking place and pretty much advanced in our island, and it is progressing more speedily. There has been declining birth rate, and also the increase in the number of deaths has been witnessed. So natural attrition is a challenge. And in order to realize a sustainable island, the environment, society, economy, and culture need to be nicely well put in place in a sustainable way. Next one, please. Mayor Watanabe in 2022 assumed his post. Immediately after that, COVID-19 occurred immediately. And in the Sado City, he wanted to show the direction of policies. There are 4 pillars were created. That is, decarbonized society, biodiversity society, a society that creates human resources, and a society that inherits its history and culture. And so intra-regional circulation was focused upon to improve the productive capacity of the island. And so the mayor showed local CES. So not just the administration, but the various stakeholders within the island were able to collaborate with each other. So he focused upon basically building a foundation for that. In order to promote SDGs, we aim to become an advanced problem-solving area. thereby realizing sustainable island. This is what we keep saying. The promotion of digitalization is essential to this, and it is also necessary to simultaneously improve transportation, medical care, disaster prevention, and living infrastructure commensurate with the size of the current population. Next page, please. Local SDGs realization related Sado City's activities will be now shown to you. First of all, as I mentioned earlier, despite the COVID-19, the mayor got down to building a foundation and make preparations for that. And he also focused upon settlement and resettlement measures as well. And in 2021, the mayor made a declaration to promote local SDGs in conjunction with a symposium. Next page. In order to organize various activities, SDGs Future City, the city was awarded an SDGs Future City in FY 2022. In terms of stakeholder, in order to allow various stakeholders to participate in this program, we have been working on SDGs partner program. Right now, over 100 companies are joining this program from inside and outside of the island. The City Hall itself need to show in a specific way about the vision that the mayor shows. So the participation of citizens is very important. So in order to deepen understanding of our city's character of SDGs Future City, we try to focus upon creating local SDGs through the island and to be a driving force for realizing a sustainable society. So in February 2023, in a regular meeting, we proposed a philosophy ordinance which was approved unanimously by the entire council. In order to work toward the decarbonization, in 2022, the city was also selected as the first decarbonization leading region for the creation of decarbonization society. At the time of disasters, the City Hall main building will be the headquarters, and public facilities will serve as disaster prevention areas. Therefore, they focus upon the solar power generation, storage batteries, recharging facilities, and EV cars in disaster prevention centers. And so they're working on these infrastructures. ZEB Ready certificate has been acquired at the City Hall main building. Now, we're currently working on parking lot as well. So we're in the process of planning for the acquisition of ZEB to coincide with the ongoing parking lot improvements. Last year, we reapplied for and were selected for the Municipal SDGs Model Project. The previous year's heavy snow disaster caused many fallen trees and fallen bamboos, and power outages due to disconnection occurred in many areas. And at that time, we demonstrated paving by chipping abandoned bamboo and mixing it with a pavement material. And at the same time, in the same area, solar power generation, storage batteries, and recharging facilities were installed to develop it as an EV spot and supply power to the surrounding facilities. We're currently in the verification phase for all these projects. These are some of the pioneering efforts we have made. As part of efforts to create a biodiversity society, in 2007, in addition to the release and reintroduction of the crested ibis to the wild, the city launched a certification system to promote the restoration of the ecosystem through agricultural methods that nurture living creatures. And so the city certifies rice produced through biennial surveys of living creatures and cultivation using fewer pesticides and chemical fertilizers. It's been established as an environmental brand of rice as well. In 2008, the first release of crested ibis was held. 500 more crested ibis inhabit Sado Island, flapping their wings in the sky. Cohabitation with the people taking place. In 2011, it was recognized as Japan's first World Agricultural Heritage Site. Next. SDGs Future City at Decarbonization Leading Region. The city was selected under those titles in 2022, so the mayor declared the city to be nature positive in that year. The return of crested ibis to the wild is also progressing steadily. This is evidence that we have been able to provide a feeding ground where the crested ibis can establish themselves in the natural environment of Sado Island. The population of the crested ibis is like nature positive. We quite often internally talk about those things. After declaring nature positive, our staff attended COP15 in Canada and presented many of Sado Island's biodiversity conservation efforts. IGES, Japan, the Ministry of Environment, Kyoto News, obtaining various support from those entities, and we had that opportunity. Next one. This is about a society that creates human resources. As part of efforts to achieve the goal of an island with zero social decline and the highest number of startups, a business contest has been held since 2021 to encourage entrepreneurship on Sado Island and create an environment where venture companies and others can play an active role on Sado Island. There are many shuttered shopping streets. So in 2022, an incubation center was established in a vacant house on a shuttered shopping street. The center has been used as offices for 5 IT venture companies and as a satellite facility for Niigata University since last year. In FY 2022, NTT Data, Niigata University, and Sado City teamed up to launch the Nature Coexistence Lab and are currently working on various projects for social implementation through industry, academia, government, and private sector collaboration. Next one, please. In order to pass on our history and culture, on 21st of this month, there is a Committee of World Heritage, and 26th to 29th, the deliberation Sado will be conducted, and we are hoping that the Sado Golden Mine will be listed on the World Heritage list. The development of Sado gold and silver mines since the Edo period brought various cultures from all over the country into the lives of the islanders, and many performing arts remain in various parts of Sado. Now, this is the Yoi no Mai event, in which Bonbori lights illuminate the historical road lined with the merchants' houses in the past, and participating groups from inside and outside the island dance elegantly to the so-called Aikawa Ondo dance. This is rather popular. This is Onidaiko, is an Onidaiko drum that has been passed down in festivals in various villages on the island. Fire-lit no plays are also popular with many people, and the 35 remaining no stages on the island are well established as a tourist resource. Next. So we are pleased to report on the efforts of Sato City, Niigata Prefecture, to realize a sustainable future and island for coming 100 years or 200 years. We are accumulating small efforts in a number of ways. As was mentioned earlier, we cannot revitalize the society within a small island, so we'd like to continue to strengthen our communication with other urban areas as well, so that we can reactivate Sato City further. Thank you for listening. Thank you very much for your input. So revitalization of the local economy following the SDGs and working with the various stakeholders, you're trying to realize it. And various branding is being used, and you're sending message externally as well. So various activities are being introduced. World Heritage List, I hope, will be bring good news to your city as well. Then next will be from Hyogo Prefecture.
Now we would like to invite Mr. Suga, CEO of Environmental Management Department of Hyogo Prefecture. They are supporting our Kansai Center of IJUS over a long period of time. Hyogo Prefecture, IJUS have a close collaboration, and today the Hokusetsu Satoyama Regional CES is the topic he will introduce. Thank you very much. Over to you. So I am Suga, the Chief Executive Officer of Environmental Management Department. I'd like to talk about the Hokusetsu Satoyama Regional CES. As already introduced, IJUS Kansai Research Institute and the Hokusetsu Satoyama Regional CES are in cooperation. Shichimachi Town and the other local municipalities are a major player in this regional CES. And the Hyogo Prefecture is serving as a coordinator. Hokusetsu region. Well, it is much wider, but when we talk about the Hokusetsu regional CES, it is the area bordering with Osaka Prefecture. To be more exact, Higashitani of Kawanishi City and Nakatani in Inagawa Town and Nishitani of Takarazuka City. These are in scope. They used to be in one integrated area, but in modern area, a respective local municipality are divided into Kawanishi City, Inagawa Town, and Takarazuka City. So this is the Maruyama wetland in Nishitani region of Takarazuka City, where the precious creatures live. But in the surrounding area, as shown in the picture, you can see many trees growing up. And if they become rampant, they absorb the water that would have entered into the wetland, which will shrink the size of a wetland, eliminating the wetland. Therefore, cutting trees is necessary. So a local volunteer group cut these trees to conserve and protect the wetland. When we talk about the Satoyama, so for cooking and the bathing and the heating, so as a source of energy, Japanese have cut the trees and preserved the Satoyama. However, in modern history, we have gas and electricity available for us, and therefore we have a reduced opportunity to make use of Satoyama. As a result, the Satoyama is being abandoned. So with non-intervention with Satoyama, the ecosystem is degraded, which reduce the count of the precious creatures. That is the reality we are faced with. So in Hokusetsu Satoyama region, we are faced with 4 challenges. But these challenges are not unique to Hokusetsu region, but this is common to all the Japanese Satoyama. The first is the destruction of Satoyama. The reason why we pay attention to Hokusetsu region is that Higashitani region in Kawanishi city, there is one person developing or doing the charcoal making for tea ceremony. So in order to produce the charcoal, this person cut sawtooth oak, and that is why this Satoyama is kept. We believe that this kind of Satoyama is not left in Japan. That is why we call this particular Satoyama the one of the few best Satoyama. But in Nishitani region, the charcoal making is no longer performed. So cutting trees and turning them into wooden chip. So by practicing in this way, we would like to turn the Nishitani region into the 71st century Satoyama. Second challenge is the external dependence on energy, meaning the reliance on foreign country for fossil fuel. So we have to shift from fossil fuel to renewable energy. So we have to increase the renewable energy within the region. One example is the coexistence of agriculture and photovoltaic power, or what we call the solar sharing, that is taking place in this Nishitani region. And the third challenge is the weakening of regional transport, and the fourth challenge is the lack of a regional coordinator. In the agricultural village or Satoyama, we are faced with depopulation, and therefore, because of a reduced population, we cannot maintain the means of transportation, and there are no human resources to energize and revitalize the local areas. Today, I would like to talk about first and the second challenge: destruction of Satoyama and the external dependence on energy. Currently, there are some Satoyama held by prefecture, and we use the local organization to cut the trees and to use it as a fuel for biomass boiler. But there are two challenges. First is that biomass boiler is imported from Europe, therefore it is expensive. Through collaboration with a local entity, we are seeking to reduce the introduction cost of a boiler. Second one is that the fuel or the wooden chip needs to be stably supplied. So the local operator called Tokushima Regional Energy cut local trees to turn them into wooden chip. But on top of that, we involve or engage other entity for securing the stable supply. Going forward, unfortunately, not only in Hokusei region but also within the Hyogo Prefecture, biomass boiler is not diffused. So by diffusing biomass boiler, we want to invigorate and enliven the demand for wooden chip, and that will make cutting trees an industry in this region. As a result, the people cut the trees in Satoyama, and that will help us preserve and reinvigorate Satoyama. And this will help the enterprises to shift from the fossil fuel to the biomass or renewable energy. So biodiversity and decarbonization can produce the synergetic effects, and we hope that we can turn this into a model. So Hokusei region biomass business is a small-scale model. However, we want to take the lead across the nation so that we can turn this into the nationwide model. Thank you very much. That's all from me. Mr. Suga, thank you very much. So he talked about the utilization of the precious resources of Satoyama. So this is applicable to across the nation.
Samya Sharma, CEO of the Nagpur district.
Okay, so a very good afternoon to everyone. I'll be speaking about how in India we are ensuring that the sustainable development goals as well as sustainable development is taking place in the rural parts. So I'd first like to tell about the structure of the Nagpur Zilla Parishad and what is the Zilla Parishad exactly. So in India, every district, there are various states have districts and districts are divided into small villages or gram panchayats, as we call them. Now, under the Indian constitution, the concept of self-government is there, wherein every local body can manage its own funds and make its own decisions to ensure better decentralization of powers and to ensure that the benefit of the local scheme are translated immediately and effectively to the local population. So the Nagpur Zilla Parishad, Nagpur is one such district in the state of Maharashtra in India. And within the Nagpur Zilla Parishad, we have local self-government at three levels. So at the district level, we have the Zilla Parishad, followed by the block councils, which are called the Panchayat Samitis, and followed by the village councils, which is the Gram Panchayat. Overall, in Nagpur district, we have 770 Gram Panchayats and around 1872 villages. Now, I'll be telling about how in Nagpur district we have taken certain measures to ensure that the message of sustainable development is spread across properly. Next slide, please. So what are the current challenges that we are facing here? I'd like to speak about them briefly. Firstly, there are certain social concerns. First is the gender balance. Although the participation of women in the workforce is steadily increasing in India, and we see women in positions of employment as well as political participation of women has increased a lot here, still we see that the women workforce participation is limited, primarily because of the lack of the educational opportunities for the women. Secondly, healthcare. We still see a few cases of infant or maternal mortality and declining health, which does affect the long-term health status of these women and children. Third is the education and literacy. The Indian government has worked for ensuring 100% literacy in the district, and for that we have actually seen better results. However, we see that before the literacy programs were implemented, there are certain people who are now probably senior citizens or they have crossed the age of 50 and they still have the issue of the literacy and the education achievement. Second is the environment challenge. So here in Nagpur district, this is located in a part of the country which has extremely high heat, and the heat wave conditions persist here year round. Then we have a very erratic climate because we have the heat wave on one end, and on the other end we get some extremely huge flash floods. In fact, currently 2-3 days ago, Nagpur district witnessed floods again. So the climate change and the impact that it is having on the agriculture is one such issue. At the same time, we have rapid urbanization taking place. Because of the urbanization, we see that the pollution and certain unplanned development is taking place, which is contributing to the pollution in the domestic as well as industrial areas when it comes to the water and air. At the same time, economic concerns are also here. So Nagpur district is actually Nagpur city. It is the second capital of Maharashtra. It is a very big city. So we also have the challenges of people migrating here. And as and when the migration happens, we see that the community tends to settle in certain areas, which again puts a pressure on the natural resources of that area. Next slide, please. So I'll be speaking about a few initiatives that we have taken to work on this. And like I mentioned at the beginning, the local self-government system empowers the local self-government, which is the Zilla Parishad, to introduce its own schemes in accordance with the local conditions. So these schemes are done by the Nagpur Zilla Parishad, and we did not have to go to the state or the central government for the funding. We get our own funds, using which we have ensured that the schemes can be properly implemented, looking at the local conditions. So the first is the Sustainable Development Goal 4, which is the quality education, as well as the Goal 5, which is gender equality. So for these two, we initiated a few programs. I'll be speaking about them briefly. under the Nai Kiran program. Nai Kiran means a new ray of sunshine. So under this program, we realized that there were still certain women who had to drop out of school for various reasons, or there were still certain women who couldn't complete their education for various reasons. Now, for these women, their age group was somewhere more than 30 years till 75 years of age, and they still showed a curiosity to get back into the system of formal education. So we started this Nai Kiran program wherein we have received great results. More than 5,000 women enrolled in this program, and the women have been able to complete their primary and secondary education. We have women who have achieved matriculation. They have cleared the senior secondary examinations through the help of this program. Similarly, the second program that we ran was the Bal Kuposhan program, which basically translates to Child Malnourishment Free Nagpur. So we have seen that there were certain cases where, because the mother was not adequately nourished during the pregnancy, it resulted in low birth weight of the child. And for the low birth weight that we have seen, the child tends to grow to an individual with low weight. So, and they become malnourished due to various factors, social as well as economic. So, to supplant the diet of the child, which the diet which the child ordinarily receives from their house, we started this scheme wherein we are given the selected children who fall in the malnourished category additional funds, and we have local level workers, the local level female volunteers who work primarily for the women and child development, who go to these children and ensure that the direct cash transfer is actually translated into meals for the child. And I'm very happy to share that this program has also received some very good results, and we have actually been able to reduce the malnutrition in the district, the severely cases of malnutrition in the district through this program. Next slide, please. We are also doing various initiatives for environmental sustainability. So the goal 6, which is clean water and sanitation. So we, like I mentioned, that Nagpur district has extreme health environment variations. So we have very high heat wave conditions followed by huge floods in the district in the same year within a gap of 2-3 months. So for that, we have ensured that rainwater harvesting is taken up as a project across all government buildings. We have ensured groundwater recharge pits are created in the schools, in the primary health centers, in all the infrastructure which is maintained by Zilla Parishad within Nagpur district. We have tried to ensure that rainwater harvesting is made mandatory, which not only improves the water table, but it also acts as a reservoir to get water within the dry month. Next slide, please. Now, when it comes to the environmental sustainability, we are also working towards affordable and clean energy. I'm again happy to hear that solar energy, since Nagpur district is located in a zone where we receive ample sunshine throughout the year, except for maybe a few 1 or 2 cloudy months in the monsoon season. We have made solar lights, solar pump, as well as solar panels an integral part of a rural infrastructure. We have villages who, using their own funds, the village level body using their own funds, are able to procure street lights which are backed by solar panel tops. At the same time, we have also ensured that the Zilla Parishad schools, the government schools and the government health centers that we have, even they have solar panels on top, which ensures that all the lighting and the electricity charges are taken care of. We also did a project to ensure that the solar heat resistant technology is adopted in the buildings by just painting the tops of the roofs white to improve the albedo effect and to lower the heat wave effects that we see in the region. Next slide, please. So when it comes to women empowerment, we are also working towards sustainable communities and settlements by actually creating groups of women who are able to work and find their own small businesses and have some entrepreneurship at their level. So we have this organization of more than 2 lakh women in the district who are organized into small self-help groups, and we provide them funding to do their own businesses. Under that, we have some examples where we have some GI tag crops which we have given impetus to. At the same time, dairy farming projects have been taken up. We also did take up hydroponics farming, which is a very effective and sustainable way of farming for crops which were usually not able to survive in the climate and the type of issues that we were facing here. So, and we also ensured to give these women a sort of a marketplace by organizing the Mahalakshmi Saras, which was basically a huge exhibition spread over 10 days. And over 10 days, more than 4 crore of Indian rupees worth was earned by these women. So these are the initiatives we are doing to not only encourage the businesses, but also to provide a marketplace to these women. Next, please. So, like I mentioned, that the local self-government is broadly able to do and take out initiatives on its own. However, we often see the need of integrating the efforts of the civil society as well as the private sector and the research and academic organizations with us, because their expertise helps us to get into better solutions, and we are able to even monitor and implement our solutions better. So we are aiming to establish these local level platforms. We have set up certain project monitoring units within the Zilla Parishad to monitor various projects. We are also working with the academecia in the cities, such as the VNIT Nagpur. We are working with them actively. And next slide, please. So like I mentioned, we are having an active collaboration with the IGES and VNIT Nagpur, how to ensure solar energy is being made a part of the local ecosystem here. Government of Maharashtra does have certain schemes, so we are trying to reach an understanding as to how best of both the worlds we can do for this. So this is about the work that we're doing here in Zilla Parishad Nagpur. I would like to apologize to everyone that I couldn't be able to present in person for their conference. I really wanted to, but due to various work commitments, I was not able to come. And thank you for giving this opportunity to present the work that we are doing here in India at this conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your very comprehensive and detailed presentation. I was much impressed by the very your program is covering, addressing a very broad area, many SDGs, and very comprehensive, including a very strong aspect of the social aspect. So anyway, thank you very much for joining us in a very busy schedule, and we are very looking forward to continuing our partnership to further promote the idea of CES in Asian region. Thank you very much. So now I would like to go to next speaker, Mr. Professor Rajiv Shah. He is a very long-time partner of IGES. So I would like to have your presentation of the local initiatives in Shikoku area for the sustainability and climate change.
Thank you very much, Takahashi Socho. And please allow me to speak in English because my timekeeper is just in front of me, and he's showing some very interesting card. So I'll be very fast. My today's intervention will be from Tosacho, which is, we call the marginalized town or marginal town, Genkai Shuraku in Japanese, in Kochi Prefecture. And you see lots of affiliations below my name. I must apologize. I forgot to put two very important affiliations. One is senior fellow at IGES, and another one is the board director of START. So I will include this in the next time. But why I'm saying this one, that my main work in academics actually come from the other three pillars which I have shown, which is the science policy interface, startup and innovation, and working with the NPOs for the grassroots learning. So I will reflect some of these.
So key feature of today's intervention is we heard from previous presentations that of course Japan is having the major aging population, and Tosacho has a population of 3,600 people, and in 2030 the estimated population will be 3,100. So this is really a very, very small, tiny town or tiny village, I will say, and it's in the heart of Shikoku Island. And it has aging population, but it has also a major challenge as well as resources, I will say, forest as well as water issues. Aging rate is 47%, but this particular town, the village, has the Sameura Dam, which is like the water sources of the whole island, the whole Shikoku Island. And there are three major industry: rice cultivation, and they have very beautiful rice terrace, actually. And then the Wagyu beef, which is a delicacy in Tosha. And that was actually my first attraction to go to Tosha for the fieldwork. And then also the forestry, so the forest-related industry. And this city has been selected as the SDG Future City back in 2020. So it was the initial batch of the SDG Future City. I actually started working on this city back in 2010 when I had a PhD student from Kyoto University, my previous university. And there we were trying to understand the challenges of the forest management and how the local volunteer network can actually help in managing the forest and also managing the disaster preparedness, because it has lots of landslide and lots of flooding. So we try to do some survey, and yes, like, do you have a volunteer self-help organization, which is we call the Jishubo Shoshiki. So yes, they have very strong volunteer preparedness, and also the fire volunteer, which is the Sobodan, were very, very strong. And we had lots of social capital related analysis back in 2010. Then again, I started working in the city from 2022 onward, and I have some master student, 3 of them, now PhD student, couple of them. So there we are trying to understand that how this whole dynamics of the SDG Future City works. And this is very interesting. I would like to point out that when it is a very small city, it's very important to listen to people's voice. So they have the citizen-based decision making, and they made this SDG Promotion Council, which have 25 members from the local, like all the local residents, and they are what they call the next generation leader. And the most important thing is that they not only prioritize what needs to be done, they have also a very strong voice on which type of budget allocation the city needs to do to implement some of the activities. And there I see that the citizens' real voice comes actually on the implementation and the budget allocation of the next year of the city's council. So they have a voice in the city senate or city council, and then that voice is taken for the approval process, and then actually it is implemented. So that's citizen-based decision making. I think it's one of the critical aspects of the current SDG Future City initiative in this Tosha town. Now, regarding this resource circulation, or what we call the CES model, we have 2 minutes, okay. So this Yoshinogawa River, so which is actually the main river system, and they are Takamatsu City, which is the downstream of that particular river basin. They are the largest user of this whole water. So they have a very strong stake that the upper watershed, which is the forest area, mostly in the Tosa city, and the nearby town called Motoyama, are managed strongly. And that's how this upstream-downstream relation in this Reihoku area started. And so they started very recently what they call the Green Accelerator Program. And there, like what you see here, the mayors of Takamatsu, Tosacho, and Motoyama town, so they had made an agreement just last year. It's a very, very recent initiative. And they are planning to make some social impact bond, or what we call the green bond. So there will be the funding from some of the industries. So what you see on the right-hand side of this particular upper flow chart, that the funders will be from the urban area, and the local government, they will be mostly the management, and then the actual beneficiaries will be the local residents as well as the upstream forest and the water area. And they are this green accelerator. So it's just officially it started this April. So there was lots of discussions and lots of actual setting up the instrument in the sense like setting up the committee, the council, and so on. So they have Moritomizu, the Forest and River Foundation, which has been officially formed. And this is a general incorporated foundation, Southern Hojin, which is in Tosa Town, Motoyama Town, and Takamatsu City, and which actually acts as an intermediary support organization, what we call this Green Accelerator, to actually bring this whole implementation issue. And there are other stakeholders also. So it's from the both regions, so forest operators, environmental NGOs, private enterprise, especially from the energy sector, different research universities, including Keio University, and some of the financial institute. So what I see here, that when we try to achieve this SDG target of the Tosa Town, so they mainly focus on these 4 SDG target, 6, 3, 15, and 5 SDG target, 6, 3, 9, 11, and 15. So it's a very interesting dynamics, like we are trying to encourage the downstream cities to contribute to the activities in the upstream smaller town, which has very little resources, so that these resources can be utilized properly. So in summary, what I would like to mention about 3 specific elements of this whole process, or my own experience from Tosa Town, Tosacho. Number 1 is they have a very strong volunteer network. The citizens network is very important. Number 2, they have a formal system to incorporate the citizens' voice through the SDG Promotion Council to influence the city budget. So that's a very good institutional approach. That's number 2. And number 3 is to fund. We always have, most of the smaller towns and cities, the resource problem. To enhance this funding, so they have this Green Accelerator program. And my PhD students have just started working on this Green Accelerator program. So I don't have a very specific data to show that how it is working, but possibly in future we'll be able to do that. So these 3 things make this Tosa Town's SDG promotion as a successful case. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Rajiv Shaw, for your presentation, including some innovative approach, including local governments and private sector and citizens and academies. Thank you very much. Finally, I would like to ask Dr. John from START International to present some activities, local government capacity building initiatives for climate change and sustainable development. We have 4 years ago, we have a memorandum of collaboration, including the establishing Asian Consortium for CES. So we continue the close collaboration with START on this issue. So floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm John Padgett from the United States, the home of the future president, Ms. Kamala Harris. I'm very honored to be here. Thank you very much. We've been working with IGES for the last 4 years on CES. What I'm going to talk about today is more on perspectives on capacity development, less so initiatives. And this reflects START's work over the last 30 years in Asia and Africa on capacity strengthening. And when one looks at local governments, one has to think about the entire system. So it's not just the local governments, it's the researchers, it's the boundary organizations, it's the private sector. So one doesn't go after capacity strengthening of one has to go after capacity strengthening of all, because these are very complex problems and they require a lot of new and innovative ways of working together. My other thought on perspectives is that it's less a technological problem as much as a technological problem built on top of a foundation of building shared purpose, mutual trust, and a sense of legitimacy between researchers and local governments. So just to remind ourselves of this context, it's not only climate change, but it's climate change together with the SDGs. And one of the benefits of the CES approach is how it localizes global goals. And so when one gets down to the local level, how do you begin to really understand those opportunities and trade-offs that exist around which we want to build capacity? So, again, it's a very complex system. There are many actors. I apologize, these are just a few of the logos of many organizations and networks that are trying to work at this interface of climate and sustainable development. So before we look at how we do capacity building, I think it's important to look at have we been doing capacity building? And this is a study that was done by AP Plot a couple of years ago. I apologize, you can't actually see I think the wording is pretty hard to see, but they did a survey across the Asia Pacific region to see how well is capacity building, how well are our investments in capacity building going. And the size of the length of the line indicates that it's not going well. So for example, in the blue area, we see that over 50%, about 60% of them have a lack of institutional support for applying the new skills and knowledge. So people go and they get training, but they're not actually able to use it. There's a lack of follow-up. There's training that's not applicable to the needs of the home institution. There's lack of post-training support, discontinuous funding from the funder, where there's a 3 to 5 year project and that project ends and there's no real thought of how do you continue in some way to consolidate the learning and capacity building that's happened. And so I think this is a really useful illustration of the fact that we've invested a lot in capacity development, but we're not doing a good enough job to really take exposure to learning and turn it into capacity being built. There's a whole process of that that needs to be considered. So just a few thoughts on how can we be more effective. Addressing complex sustainability challenges requires a system orientation. As I said earlier, that we need not only to build capacity of local governments, but capacity of researchers to work in complex research environments and understand how to really engage local governments, boundary organizations, NGOs, and others in shared learning, the exchange of knowledge and perspectives across these different domains of research, government, private sector, et cetera. And START's done a good job of that in the past with the Pan-Asian Risk Reduction Fellowship Program, where we really brought together all these different perspectives. So you had a real spirit of shared learning. Institutional norms and cultures have an outsized influence. And that's really about paying attention to the home institution. We have had many fellowships over the years where we learned that one goes away and gets a training and they're doing really well. They go back to their home institution. There's not the enabling environment to allow them to carry it forward. So really paying attention to that. Technologic tools-based capacity building approaches are useful, but they're limited. And so we really need to think about what else is needed beyond just tools. And then, as I mentioned earlier, trust, credibility, and sense of shared purpose are really important, and this requires creating dialogue, deep listening, really investing time of researchers working with local governments. So it's a tough process. I mean, it's one that can yield results, but you really have to pay attention to the context and the enabling environment. So I'm going to end here with just an example of some work that START's been doing that's related to the CES effort. It's this thing called EPIC, Educational Partnerships for Innovation in Communities. And this is a program where we got funding from the U.S. National Science Foundation as well as the UNEP to work to create opportunities for local universities to work with local governments and local communities around sustainability challenges. And the interesting thing about this model is that it relies a lot on students, undergraduate and postgraduate students, who go out and work with local communities and local governments in collecting data, in engaging with them and understanding how to really work across these different domains. And one of the important features of this is that it's creating not only academic learning for the students, but pracademics, the whole idea of putting practice into academia so that university students come out of the workforce much more prepared to tackle these big sustainability challenges. And we're doing this with Thammasat University in Bangkok is our partner in this, and we've done pilot actions now in about 15 cities in Southeast Asia. So I think there are a lot of good examples from that that can help us help us think about how to develop a more responsive capacity development for local governments and for the whole system of those who engage with local governments. So with that, I'll end. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. John, for your very valuable recommendations based on your experience in Asian countries. So, すいません、私の不手際で。
So sorry on my part. Already the time is up after the first round. We have only 5 minutes. We need to finish at exactly 3:20 sharp. We have only a few minutes, but if you have any questions from the floor, we'd like to take up 1 to 2 questions. Do you have any questions?
Thank you very much. My name is Reza from local government in Indonesia and from the University of Kitakyushu. I want to ask to all speakers, but especially for Professor Rajib Shah. My first question is, in your opinion and in your experience, which do you think is more important to do first, building infrastructures or building environmental behavior and environmental awareness in the local community, according to the condition of Asian and developing countries? The second one, in line with local to global action, in your opinion, how does grassroots activism play a role in environmental management or in SDGs implementation in urban or local government areas? Thank you very much.
So, Professor Rajib Shah, please.
Thank you very much. It's difficult to say that which comes first, whether infrastructure or whether the awareness. You can't just wait for people to get aware and then build the infrastructure, or you can't just build the infrastructure and later aware the people. So I will say possibly nowadays we often use the term called co-design, co-delivery. So maybe it needs to go together hand in hand. And we often say that when you talk about the infrastructure, it has hard infrastructure, which is the actual visible infrastructure, but there are also soft infrastructure, which is required to support the hard infrastructure. And that includes capacity, awareness, governance, transparency, finance, and so many other things. So that's possibly the first part. The second part, if I understand your question rightly, that it is more on the youth participation or youth movement, and possibly in that case, when you talk about the SDG, the important thing is sustainability. So who can sustain it? Only the youth and young generation who will actually bring this whole movement together. So there, I think nowadays, we saw in the previous presentations as well, that I think most of the places, now there is a major consensus that the youth-led SDG or youth-led development or youth-led environmental program, and there are lots of recognized champions regional, global champion, regional champion, local champion. So I think we need to properly recognize their role, and we need to have an platform where all these new innovations from the youth actually comes into practice. Thank you.
Thank you. あと1問ぐらいなんとか。
We could possibly take one more question. Is there one last question? Okay, the person over there. Please try to be brief. We have only 2 minutes left.
Well, this question is for Miss Saumya.
She's not here.
She's
Sorry.
not here anymore.
Yeah,
Okay,
she's not
well,
here.
Then can I change the question then? Is that okay?
Yeah, please. Please identify the person you would like to ask.
Yes. For Takahiro-san, I believe. Hi. Well, by the description of your presentation, Sato Island seems to be a self-sustainable island. So I would like to know from the services and products in the island, how many, in a percentage, how many of them are produced locally?
Yes, please. So in terms of overall, the self-sufficiency itself is not that high, I would say. Agriculture, food production, as far as that goes, I think self-sufficiency is rather high. But in our livelihood, in terms of self-sufficiency, we depend upon the outside of the island and overseas as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Because of my poor handling of facilitation, we don't have much time anymore. So the time was very limited, but very unique efforts in each locality have been presented. So also we can continue to analyze the elements working in these municipalities, and we can say deploy those things more horizontally. If that is done, then that is very useful. So IGES is going to continue to strengthen the network that we have built upon the regional CES we built upon so far, so that we can continue to work together. So I'd like to ask for your cooperation for the panelists as well as all the stakeholders. Thank you very much for your participation. Please give them another big round of applause.